Hi, Blake.
Hi.
So grateful that we get to have this conversation today. We have been aware of each other's existence for a while, and we both have a lot of similarities in our background in serving humanity in our own ways. We are both tap into the technology and also very aware of the ancient wisdom. And you actually, I was very grateful that you sent me a copy of your book, Rosewell. And because you sent me the copy, I was able to read it. And as you can see, that I love the way you compiled all the story in a chronological order. And truly, you have covered the story from so many different perspectives that it's almost like, you know, how you say there's no stone unturned. That's exactly how I felt is because like you truly went so deep into it from so many different perspectives that it's impossible for anybody to refute, you know, what you have. And it was interesting to especially you went into depth of the technology that has been passed on through all these events that were very historical, but they were not broadcasted for a very good reason. And definitely, I'm interested in diving into it. So, welcome to the convergence.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. So it's an honor to be here, and it's really interesting because I wrote three books before that, and I had no intentions of writing another book. And I don't know if you know, but when I write books, I usually get downloads of wisdom, and
Mhm.
the first three or first two or so from ascended beings. And I didn't know that at the time. I had no idea what downloads was. I just knew that information was coming. So if I don't write it down, it would haunt me over and over until I put it on paper, and then it releases me. And when I embrace it, I grow, and gives me another principle or teaching. So after the three books, I said, you know what? I'm done. It takes a lot of time, money, and effort. And then I was fascinated by ufology, but I suppressed that part of me for a long time. I had my contact experience as a kid. And when you talk about these things, people make fun of you. They think you're crazy, you know. So I learned to just repress it for so long. And I think I just started to talk to my brother. Past few years ago, he was really sick, so I took care of him. And I knew my father was involved in the Roswell incident when I was 18. I was watching a program. He just showed up and said, I was there, but he kind of downplayed it when I asked him questions. So I just left it alone. And then I suppressed the information about ETs, ufologies, and any memories I had with it. I just kind of push it out of my system, live a normal life. And then so when my brother got sick, I started to, take care of him. And he started telling me about my father, how my father was in the White Sands Missile Range. And so I didn't know what it was all about. And he said that he had the scene with Dr. Werner von Braun. And then little by little, I started to research and say, you know what? I don't really know my father. I didn't know his past. And so I started to find out more about it. Meanwhile, I'm getting all these new downloads as, oh no, it's happening again. It's time for me to write. And I fought it because I said, I don't want to write about this subject because of the stigma involved with it, the ridicule, and there's, oh no, here's this guy again, there's an alien guy. And I was going to say, well, slow down my life, kind of slow down, get ready for retirement from the corporate world, focus more on fulfilling my mission, the bigger mission. And then this thing comes along, and then I didn't know what to do. And I kept on getting messages to write, to write. And I fought it for the longest time. So I know you're very spiritual, and I am as well. And I prayed. And well, actually, I didn't pray, I was meditating. And I'm connected to one of the avatars, Sri Anandamaya Ma. She's an Indian goddess, and she came to my life 2 years ago, and she just gave me her blessing. She said, "It's okay, write the book, but don't get lost. Get grounded, stay grounded, and continue your faith, not faith, but your practices, sadhana practices, spiritual practices." And so that was the go ahead signal. And so I said yes to the universe. And when I did, the doors opened. I started meeting all these people like Jesse Marcel the third, and we talked to get information to validate the book. Getting a hold of Laura Eisenhower to validate about her great grandfather, President Eisenhower, and all these doors open and meeting people. And my life, I've always had connections with people from all walks of life, from the spiritual world and the paranormal world and the intergalactic world. And I said, you know what? I have all these things, and maybe that's why they want me to write it because I can put it all together. It's like every part of this ufology has one little puzzle, and then as I put all these pieces together, it shows the bigger picture. And that's what I find about the world of ufology. It's like so political, and it's like everybody belongs to a different club. But you have to look at the big picture. And I think with the spiritual awareness, and the meditation and all that, it gives you a bigger perspective. And so I open my mind to the universe and say, yes, I'll do it. And then they start guiding me what to write. Because before that, I didn't know anything about ufology. I just was fascinated by it. So I was guided on what to share. So I just put it together, and it has that kind of flow to bring to awareness and let people decide themselves, and also at the same time to activate them, to help them to connect.
Right. So it's interesting, when you talk about download, when you talk about you didn't know anything about it. And I basically come from this angle, right? That it's all about reminding ourselves what we have forgotten, right? So technically, we're basically stimulating our potential through these experiences, and especially the one where we actually think that we need to stimulate that part of us, right? And that's the part that actually is more deeper hidden in us, right? Which is what needs to come out and play, right?
That's
Unfold. And I think the more we do something that we truly didn't even know that was there, like it's like you see the world completely differently, right? Because the layer that you unlayer, right? And then you start seeing things that you would never even notice.
right. That's right. It's hard because we live in this 3D world, and the 3D world is systematically set up to block us from contacting our higher self, our true nature, our intergalactic nature is buried, through the social media, through the media, and you know how that's all controlled information, and we see the world in a biased way. And this world is full of polarity. It's like the good versus the evil, me against them, rather than us together, the unity consciousness. So once you start to go in that spiritual dive and journey deeper, then you realize that we're all connected.
Exactly. And I think that the reason that's why I actually don't even use the word download because of the quantum field, right? Because
Ah.
every single one of us is actually interacting with that quantum field to offload the data and to use it based on the channel they want to dial in, based on the reality they want to live in. So we are making all these choices in nanosecond, like at all the times, but most of the time unconsciously, which is what my teaching is all about, is that truly it's like if right now you actually notice yourself that you are in this body and you are talking through the screen with Shehnaz, who is also in her body. And then we both are actually kind of like having this screens that we're using, to kind of bridge the interaction for us. Then that to me is the way we need to live so we can have one foot here and one foot there. Because especially with my current role, like I'm in a very kind of visible, challenging role right now with what we are going to do with the Artemis program. And it is like insanity, the amount of work and the amount of challenge I have to deal with every single day. And then my spirit self is like Shanaz, like, I mean, I can easily get, what's the word, engaged, right? In that story to the point where I would forget to eat, I would forget to talk. Um, and that is the choice you have to make is that when you are interacting with in the matrix world through all these screens, through all these soup of electromagnetic field. And then, you have a window, right, where the sun is shining, and then there's a bird chirping, and the bird keeps coming in the window. It's almost like the universe is saying, giving you this nudge, isn't it a good time to take a little break, right? And that's the interaction that I have started with the whole quantum field is like how there's a spiral going on, and let's just dance with it.
Right. That's right. Don't fight it. Just go with it and surrender to the process. Yeah. And then find balance.
That is the art of living, and that is the fun part of the puzzle, I would say, because to me, it's kind of like at the end of the day, it's all you interacting with different versions of you in different forms, so you can feel whole.
Hmm. That's right. It's interesting though. This life is so complex, because we have what we were taught when we were little. When the first 6 years is so important from the schools, from our parents, in the society, and that programs our subconsciousness. and that kind of dictates our behavior. Then you have the media and everything else reinforced on top of that. And religion, that's a big part of it. All that puts on top of it, developing guilt and rules and regulations. So it's really hard to get through that. So it takes awareness and then the search for the truth and the search for that power within, and to expand beyond that, to grow beyond that, to see our true and divine nature, and that we're not just here to work hard, get rich, or get famous, and die. That there's more purpose in life.
Exactly. And so that is the fun thing, right? So from your perspective, were you also born and raised in Asia, right? You're not.
No, actually, I was born in San Francisco.
Oh, you were. So you're actually American born. Okay. So you're not
Yeah.
an. Okay, I was just thinking about it because it's an interesting thing on how when you're raised, in America, even though your, heritage is Asian, right? Like you come from that continent, versus somebody who actually was born over there, like what kind of, you know, um, intrinsic memory, right, that they carry within their DNA, right? Because to me, I always wonder about that depending on how you're raised, because how you're raised has a huge contribution towards what you think success is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's also linguistics too. The language you speak shapes your way of thinking. And I grew up in San Francisco, was born and raised there, but my mother was from China and my father was from San Francisco.
Mhm.
But the funny thing is, my mom was more Americanized and my father was more Chinese than my mother. So it's kind of interesting dynamics. But I did,
Opposite attracts, right? So
what's that?
opposite attracts. So it seems like that
Yeah,
they both
yeah, I
wanted
guess
to
so.
grow in each other's world.
Mhm.
That is interesting. So yeah, I think it's an interesting journey. But one thing I always say is that with all the wisdom, so let's do this game. I'm gonna ask you a question, and then you're gonna ask me a question. We're gonna have a little fun. So I am actually going to say that this book, by the way, the fact that it contains all this compendium of technology, that to me was the most exciting thing for me. And my question is that knowing everything that you have known about life, about consciousness, about success, you've been all the places, you've met a lot of amazing people. It's like been there, done that. In this particular space right now where you are, and based on everything you've acquired, what do you think is the most meaningful thing for you to exist?
The most meaningful things to exist,
Yeah,
just
like, yeah.
living in a moment for one thing, and just kind of tuning in and living moment by moment by and listening, observing, and listening to what the soul is prompting, the universe is prompting, and pay attention to that, and just not to be afraid, and follow its guidance, follow that divine guidance, the galactic guidance to fulfill my dharma. Basically, yeah, I think I'm at that in my life where I have to fulfill my dharma, complete my mission. And I fulfill many of them, but I think right now, this thing that I'm doing right now is a very important part of my mission, because it gives people, it wakes up people to who they are, where they came from, and then it has a ability to expand their consciousness. So I think right now the important thing for me to do is be grounded, and to listen and fulfill that mission, and stay focused on that mission.
Okay, that's good. So basically, when you have a clear understanding of where you're going and what you're going to do kind of to get there, and then when you live in a movement, to be very aware, because the movement is actually directing you also whether where you're going is truly where you want to go.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
And that's why it becomes important to be so aware that you actually are listening into that intuition and not getting lost like Wizard of the Oz, where you truly are looking basically for direction from everybody else while you actually already have a shoes on to take you home.
Yeah, and to realize that, the Wizard of Oz, I always mention about the Oz, and that there is a small elite Oz controlling the world behind the curtain. And if we don't know what they're doing, it's easy to get manipulated by that, and to try kind of transcend that. So I think the key of the consciousness and evolution is going within, and not so much connected to the AI. AI can be used good or bad, But right now, I see it being manipulated to give biased information for certain things. So I think for us to thrive and survive as civilization, we have to go inwards and get grounded and connect it to the cosmic field, the quantum field.
100% in agreement. And I think that that is actually one of the message that would be one good message I would love for anyone who's listening to this to get out of that. What you just said is that, even though we have all these tools and we have all this AI machine and everything is ready to answer your question and give you more data than you can imagine. But at the end of the day, it's a data that's coming through a system that is dependent on the data that was fed into it to
Right.
create, right, the data. So it is still a limited pool. It's still a very biased pool. So therefore, when you really tap into your own DNA, right, which is connected through the quantum field with every single being on this earth, because we were at one point all together in the Big Bang, right, because of the quantum entanglement. So with that type of connection that we actually carry, which is truly something that we cannot even understand, but we carry it, supersedes every single knowledge system there is that is man-made.
That's right. That's right. Hmm.
So yeah, that is definitely the case. So, well, I guess I'm going to just take a random page here and see what I can get because like that was the most intriguing part about some of the things, like and I was very impressed that people were willing to share all that information to that, level with
Yeah,
you.
some of it, there's one person, it took me about almost 2 months to gain that person's trust because we're talking about things that, are pretty much like top secret or things that people signed agreements not to talk about. Even my father, that's why he was so quiet about it and downplayed his role in it. So he just gave bits and pieces to different people and to try to leave me some breadcrumbs to put the pieces together to look at the bigger picture. Because he was afraid, he was threatened in the military against talking about it.
Right, and that is the thing, right? That it's sad when fear pretty much is the, you know, what is there's a quote for that. The violent is one of the, um, traits with the incompetent, right? If you think about it, and fear is driven in the category of violence, and anybody who's using fear to control you, that to me is completely opposite of everything quantum physics is based on. Because when
Mm.
you believe in the quantum field, when you believe in the oneness, when you believe everybody's a mirror to you, you don't try to control one of your mirror because then you're limiting your own potential.
That's right. That's
So
right.
it's kind of interesting, right? If you actually bring it home like that. So,
Mhm.
okay, so I just took out this page number 30 on your book, and it is actually kind of talking about something that was found in Los Alamos, Area 51, where the alien had no sex organs and did not eat but got its nutrients through its skin. Apparently, it was fed plasma through his skin. A sponge was dipped into a container of plasma, and then the sponge was squeezed, and the plasma went all over the alien's body and absorbed. The next day, it would have such a stench, it would need a bath. Please tell me more on that because that story and the entire concept of plasma being, because we all are plasma being, right? We are all at the varying level of plasma. It was very intriguing.
Yeah, that was told to me by a super soldier, and he didn't give me his name. I mean, he gave me his name, but I couldn't share in the book, so I had to change it. But he said he had interactions with the surviving ET. But he said that they would have to get like a gallon or so, and then they put of plasma. And I'm not sure what type of plasma, but they would take a sponge and put it over the body and squeeze it. And I guess they eat through the absorption through their skin. And I was on another show, I think it was called Paranormal Soup, and there was a person who was abducted, and they remembered there was these plasma also on the craft, and they must have used it for nutrients. But I want to also mention that there was one thing about Dolores Canyon, and she was talking about how the ETs were kind of laughing at us because we eat food, and they can derive their energy sustenance through the light, because of the plasma light. And so I think there's different dimensional levels of nutrients, but I guess the highest level, they just go through the light and then breathe it in, and it gives them what they need, kind of almost like the prana energy and things like that. So I found that kind of fascinating. But yeah, between the light and some kind of plasma, that's how they absorb it. There was one though, ET. I think the name was J-Rod, and my friend's friend, I think Captain U-Haul, he was the handler of that particular ET, and I think it liked for some reason shakes or something, and the way it took it, it put his finger into the cup, and it just kind of like a straw, just used the finger to suck it up, and I thought it was interesting how they did that, but very fascinating.
Right, that is definitely fascinating. So it's obvious that it's like the matter manipulation is very different from their perspective because the way they see the matter is different. I mean, if you really think about it, right? Like, and what you're saying about like them picking up information in a lighter form is like based on your density, right? Based on your frequency and vibration, you are going to have to meet where you are. So like we are much more dense and we live in a dense reality most of the time. So we tell, we eat like meat or cow or whatever. So we are very dense, right? And we are consuming food with that density. So it makes sense for them to actually pretty much like, because light is what it all boils down to ultimately, right? Which is what we end up using it when it's a photonic light that ultimately truly helps us, retain and sustain and heal. That is pretty much manna from heaven is the word that have been used in the past, is very interesting concept, and the reason we don't understand is because if you don't understand that you're more than physical, right, then you're going to always question all of these different aspects of existence.
That's right. But talk about plasma. I do know that these beings, they can fly in like plasma craft. I know the one that crashed at Roswell was more metallic and it was a conscious craft. But there are ones that I have seen videos of. My friend of mine films it all the time. In the book, there's a picture of it, and she gave it a nickname Billy. And when you look at far away, it looks like an orb. And one time she took a screenshot of it and we blew it up. In the book, you can see there's a ET within that orb. So they fly in these kind of plasma craft. But it's amazing. And it had a story in there about the Rocket Man. And a friend of mine is a yogi, and she's a direct descendant of a Native American First Nations chief. And she lives out in the wilderness and like 20 minutes, 30 minutes from the city. And one time at nighttime, she sees a being standing next to her mailbox. Looks kind of humanoid, but the difference is that the top part of the head was kind of like triangular, like a crayon, and it had
Mm.
plasma. And it was startled, it saw her, and it started running. And then he bent his head forward, and then he became this oblong light and flew away. And then this was witnessed by her, and she gets these kind of visits all the time. I mean, she's taking pictures of all these different species. They visit her basically, and I put some of these in the book, and I shared some of these at the Coast to Coast AM radio. But it just shows how beautiful life is when you evolve. I see them as high octave beings, maybe one or two or three or four higher octave. This is like the Tibetan rainbow body. When you at the end of life they can achieve light body. Same thing. I think they're in that kind of realm up there. So something to look forward to in our human evolution consciousness.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And I'm very grateful to hear that your friend is able to, interact with it physically, right? And she's able to see it, which means that she has mastered the art of, because you know how, like, I have friends who can see the auric field, around human. And then based on the auric field, you know what kind of mood they are in sometimes, if you're angry versus you're calm, right? I mean, your aura is basically projecting and so all of these to me is where we need to be, right? And I actually, these are the schools we need to stand up, right? So that we can all start seeing quantum fields in our own way, so we don't have to look for proof outside of that. We can prove it to ourselves that all of the things that we have been aware of through ancient wisdom, truly the entire Vedic astrology is based on that, right? All of these extreme wisdom that comes from, Sumerian tablet and like really going all the way back to human origin, right? Like that is all embedded in this knowledge. And the very fact that we keep on questioning it and keep on living in these loops, right? Like where we get so sucked into the technological evolution that we forget that we are the technology who was supposed to evolve and supersede that evolution over the evolution of anything outside of us.
Yeah, imagine we get so high level that we can actually create reality. I mean, we are creating reality of our consciousness, but when you get to a higher octave, and we can really create physical matter. I know somebody who used to work for like a part of the government in a secret aspect, and he's very high up there in terms of consciousness, and he's doing like a big things for the planet, and he has seen in in the higher octaves that what you can create. Actually, he's created it, so we know. I mean, it's reality. It means when they create these crafts, they use their mind to create it. Even when they fly it, they use telepathy to fly these crafts. I mean, there's some movement sometimes. Sometimes there's some lever, but like the one at Roswell, it had a little bit print for the fingers to be placed on, and I think there was a lever on one side, but it was a seat with a band over it, and through the telepathy, they were able to communicate with the craft. And the craft wasn't just a metallic craft; it had a consciousness, and that's something new that I found out like 3 to 6 months ago, working with some experts to further investigate my father. So I didn't just stop after the book. I continued the research and to find out more and more details. And it's amazing how the mind works.
Oh, exactly. And I think that I personally had an experience. So, of course, I'm very aware of ships that basically are, organic ships. However, like when you watch shows like Battlestar Galactica, right, when they actually, Starbucks in one of the ships that she ends up getting, for the Cylon, it's basically the ship pretty much it becomes part of her and she becomes part of it. And in that storyline, when you really think about it, like if you don't have like a proper mindset, then you truly will not be able to survive that because it's all intertwined. And if you think about it, that's how it is with us as a human craft, because we are truly a ship, that is constantly interacting with everything outside of it, right? And we call that human body. I call it human craft. At the end of the day, to me, that ship needs to be really attend to in a way that we can understand all its features, all its potentials, so we can be everything we are meant to be and more.
I like that, the human craft. That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's what I say. I mean, in like my first book, The Quantum Being, and I'm kind of like not. I'm working on something that basically kind of gets into a lot of different aspect of our existence, but I'm applying it on myself because my whole thing is that's all about embodiment at this point. The more you can learn to embody your own wisdom, then you become a walking wisdom. And you don't have to tell people that come hear me. The people are going to come find you because they want to hear you.
Yeah, yeah, you kind of set signal out. You're like a beacon, and even the light that within us, the light and the love within
Yeah,
us, a certain frequency. So sometimes you don't even have to say anything. You can just go in the room and you're amplifying, you're setting that frequency out of love, light, and wisdom. And those that need it, they'll gravitate to you and they'll start engaging with you. So it's like you have a lot of light. So I know wherever you go, whatever you do, the videos you produce generates that light, that activation. You activate people where you go. So sometimes it's teaching, but sometimes you don't need to do anything. You just exist in the moment
exactly.
and to bring that light to others, that the wisdom to others.
Exactly. Yeah. Because the fact that you're going places, right? You're having all these experiences, we're affecting people. And right now, definitely, I really get a lot of contentment out of interacting with my colleagues, at NASA and various aerospace company because they are, it's an interesting world, and it's fun sometimes when you are in the game that is complex.
Yeah, it's a very different world you live in. I mean, it's interesting because you live in the like, one side, like, the very scientific side, and the other side is the metaphysical side. But it's all connected when you understand it. But yeah, it's not so different. So when you get to a higher level, the higher octaves, science, metaphysics, spirituality, it just all merges together.
Right, right. And I think that that is what I say, right? It's like when people, because right now one of the favorite thing I do in my spare hours is that I actually love to kind of empower younger generation. So a lot of kids who are actually in that story where they want to become the technically savvy, but at the same time, they're very, very spiritual. They're finding me, and I love that because it's kind of like because I kind of offer that, right? And I always say that why can't you, why can't you, play a guitar and also be the the leader who takes everybody to Mars, right? Like why can't you do it all, right? Because we are a multidimensional being. And the thing is that one feeds the other one because that is the constant dance we're doing. Like it's not have to be one or the other because that was the thing a lot of people are like you have to just quit everything and then you can become this or you have to do only this. That's the only way you can make money. All of these things are very conditional,
Right.
right? And the more you give conditions, the less freedom you're going to have. And I'm like, you know what? It's all about accessing freedom as much as possible because truly the world itself imposes a lot of enslavement without any help.
That's right. I'm kind of curious because you mentioned about questions and maybe I can ask you questions. I've been curious too about your life and your upbringing and what you had to go through because you had to live a life in your particular culture where it's very regulated and I know you're very, very like headstrong, very intelligent, so you have to fight against all that. So how did you cultivate yourself to be strong and to move forward to be who you are today?
Yeah, that is one thing that it seems like it completely goes back to like what you said earlier is that everything that we are seeking is inside of us, right? And for me, I believe that I was born with that natural built-in feature, like that awareness was there because I know that I was aware of me being confined in my body, me being wondering about like everything outside of me asking questions that nobody was able to answer. And when people were not able to answer my question, I was not saying that my question is wrong. I would keep asking questions to different people until I
Mhm.
get to the point where somebody gives me some sort of validation that my question is not completely insane, right? So I think that the fact that I actually did not give up on myself is the only reason you and I are having a conversation right now. That is it
Mhm.
because everybody gave up on me, left and right. And I
Right.
have no idea that how I had so much confidence that I should not give up on my dream. And even right now, I mean, there are dreams that I have not ever met in this life, and I still believe in them, and I know I'm going to converge with it based on my track record. So you see my point? And I think that belief is pretty much the driver. And that is where we actually are so powerful that our belief can mold our reality.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you have to you believe it and then you have to see it and it activates and you connect that to your heart and then it helps you to manifest it.
Exactly, yeah. So that is why it says fourfold process, right? Like it's kind of like everything is fourfold, and four is the number of representation of physical reality. So when 3 points converge, it's funny because even the way you find even the phenomena GPS works on is the convergence of 3 points. So if you think about it, that is embedded in all the ancient teaching, is that how when you converge 3 points, right? So like, it's kind of like, you have a will, which is the force. So, it's by will alone I set my mind in motion. So that force, that fire, truly ignites the motion. That motion becomes an activity. And that is the second point, right? So there's a force, then there's activity, and that activity creates a pattern. So as soon as the pattern happens, it comes into physical form. And that is why when you start understanding like those are so right next to each other, right? Then it becomes easier to interact with whatever channel you want to interact with. It's a beautiful um, string dance.
Yeah, exactly.
So
That takes
yeah,
a
go
lot
ahead.
from I mean, I can't imagine how much energy or maybe you had good support from your mother or somebody to give you the good foundation because it's for an average person it'd be very difficult to negotiate through all that difficulty, with all the obstruction, obstacles in your way, emotional, societal, cultural, all those things to transcend that is amazing.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And I mean, it has been a hard life, and there are times even now, like I look at the extreme I had to go through to get to where I am and the life that I live is very extreme compared to the people that I was born and raised with. When I compare my life with my sister or with my cousins in Pakistan, right? I mean, they cannot even imagine the way I'm living, what I do even for living, what my goals are. It's just It's just I have completely like it's almost like when you're working on an experiment and the experiment usually carries a space and time in the XYZ axis. But what I have done is taken the experiment off the board. It's no longer on the board, right? So it's kind of like, okay, I have no idea where this is going because it doesn't have any parameters. And I think
Yeah.
that not setting a parameter has always been my quest because like even right now, even in meetings and stuff, I always notice at NASA, I'm the only one with my accent. I'm the only one from Pakistan. Sometimes I'm the only female. So it's kind of interesting, like how you start seeing that you just came to disrupt the so-called existing patterns.
Mhm. That's right. You're a pioneer. So are you gonna be the first woman on the moon?
No, because I'm really smart. Therefore, I'm not going myself. I'm only helping other people to be able to go to the moon. That's what I'm doing. So I'm helping. So my job right now, I'm basically a system requirement lead, which basically means that responsible for making sure that we capture everything that we want to capture for the right rocket to land at the right place on the moon.
Well, that's a very important job. It's a lot of science, a lot of physics and calculations, and exciting, very exciting. Because through your pioneering work, you're going to have the first woman there, or the future astronaut's going to be there. So we haven't had
Yeah.
the astronaut there for a while, right? On the moon.
What?
When was the last time somebody was on the moon? Was that the Apollo 20th or?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, that is the thing, right? That as far as the human being on the moon goes, from our understanding, it was 50 years ago, right? So, that is the reason that even though uh, people are like, oh, we have already gone to the moon. Why are we going again? Well, first of all, we have to make sure that we've something we haven't done for 50 years. That's a pretty long time. It's important to make sure that we actually can truly say that, yes, we can do it again. That's the first thing. Secondly, we have different goals now. We are no longer interested in just trying to touch and land on the moon. We really
Right.
want to live on the moon so we can ultimately use it as a base for other exploration. And to me, like, just when you look around among humans, right? And when you look around in terms of how much disagreement we're having on Earth, where there is so much challenges happening, and then you start thinking that is there anything where human can come together and work together and do something together? And if that actually means landing on the moon and living on the moon and truly making technology that we have never made, I think that's a way better way of channeling our energy than bombing countries and messing up people's life, right? So, so to me, I feel like that we need more projects that can unite humans together than less.
I agree. I agree. And my dream is that one day, I'm hoping that maybe 20, 30 years from now that we can turn Star Trek into reality.
100%. And it's funny you said that because I actually had a very fun conversation with Dr. Sala. And the
Oh,
entire conversation, yeah, I think you probably would love that. If you want, I'll send you the link. But the entire thing was titled as Star Trek World. How can we create a Star Trek world? And it was just so fun for me because, that's pretty much my dream too. I'm a Star Trekkie and I'm I'm aligned with your dream. So,
I
yeah,
think it's achievable. I mean, I think most people don't realize, but there's a lot of connections going on already with these interdimensional beings, and they're just waiting for us to evolve further to get along better. And then we can, I mean, I think we have the technology already. I think Lockheed, Boeing, a lot of companies like that, they have it already. So it's just a matter of our readiness, with the government, with the people's consciousness.
yes,
The support
100%.
support team, the ET support team is there already.
That is true. So, speaking of the mission and speaking of the next step and anything, so let's wrap it up. So, please say and share what you want to share with anyone who come across this video, because they are meant to listen to us in
Well,
their
I think
evolution.
yeah, yeah. So I think the one thing in my book is that I want us to say that there's validation that we are not alone, and that well, that's one thing I want to clarify too. And I know they call these beings non-human intelligence, but I think many of them look just like us. In my opinion, a lot of them are us in the future, in the past, and the present. So it's just our families, our brothers and
That's
sisters.
true.
So as we raise our consciousness, we can set ourselves free. And so we can live in peace and harmony. So everything starts from going within. I think that's what we have in common, that we both were able to go within to find peace and find that joy and find that paradise and find that cosmic connection, that quantum field. And when we do that, it'll set all of us free and happy.
Yes, you're absolutely right. That we actually, and everybody's work in progress. We're work in progress, but one thing we know for sure that worked for us with going through all the diversity and all the challenges is that we knew that we trusted our inner voice, and that was the one thing. Even though it was hard to trust it at times because other people were making us question it, it was hard to really say that, am I really insane, or why am I the only one thinking that way? And when you feel that way, right, you feel so alone. And then your book, Rosewell, pretty much says that we're definitely not alone. So that there's just no question about it. And therefore, and then the fact that, you actually are very aware that you had downloaded information given to you, and it directed you in a very, like, it put you on a trajectory that you had to be on to go where you're going. And I'm assuming that for all of us, we can actually say that, because at the end of the day, when we do hear to our inner voice, then we are connecting with all the other yous we have, right? In the cosmos that's scattered out, all the different versions across time and space. And then when we interact and converge and fold, then we unfold.
That's right. And I just want to say thank you for all that you do. I mean, it's a beautiful life that you live, and you, I think, are inspiration to everybody, to women, children, and men, and children all around the world, uh, by transcending your circumstance and knowing that you can create the impossible dream. Just believe in yourself. And I shared a similar childhood, very difficult, but I wrote that in my first book. But yeah, I just admire what you do and keep doing what you're doing, and for our space, our future, and for the cosmic universe, and just your presence on the planet is making a big difference. And your joy and your high frequency, I love that. It's just you don't have to say a word. It's just you're healing, just being alive. So
Thank you, Blake, for such a wonderful word, and I appreciate you. And definitely going to continue this some other time. But for now, we're going to say um, our byes.
okay.